Geordie Juno's back again, round the back of the Newcastle United Media Centre. Third time speaking to Eddie Howe in 4 days after a nice 2-week break, sort of. So, yeah, Newcastle United playing Leicester City on Monday night, so still a few days' time. Beat Brentford, return to Premier League action with a good win against Brentford at St James's Park on Wednesday. Jordan, what did Eddie Howe have to say this lovely Friday morning?
That's beautiful, isn't it? It's a
Lovely. The sun is shining.
It certainly is. And my Carabao Cup hangover is absolutely out of the way now. I'm ready for the final 9 games of the season. But will some of Newcastle United's players be ready for the final 9 games of the season? Because...
That was good. That was good.
Because there's a couple of injury concerns, knocks, niggles, whatever you want to call them, in Newcastle United's camp, and I would say there was 2 big ones in an attacking sense, in Alexander Isak and Anthony Gordon, and then from a defensive point of view, Kieran Trippier, although I'd suspect it's probably less serious to him, given it was suspected cramp on Wednesday. But the two are the best attacking players in Newcastle's team. Anthony Gordon and Alexander Isak might not make Monday. By the sounds of it. Well, Anthony Gordon sounds worse than Alexander Isak.
Yeah, I think so. The way Eddie Howe was speaking, obviously Anthony Gordon's missed the last 3 games anyway due to suspension. Understanding was he'd be back available for this Leicester game, but obviously took what Eddie Howe described as a really, really bad knock against, was it Latvia on international duty, or was it Albania? Albania on international duty with England. So he had to go off in the latter stages of that game, and he hasn't trained since. So it's Friday now. Got a few days to try and get Anthony Gordon back up to speed, but after sort of the best part of 3 weeks out injured, be surprised to see him certainly in the starting lineup on Monday.
I think he'll be in the squad, because I think when speaking to Eddie Howe on Tuesday, he did say returning to training within a few days. We've probably got that few days stage now. The players are off on Thursday, so the awkward thing about these Monday night matches is you don't really get a sense of injuries, especially when they've had a midweek game as well. But I think he'll be involved in some capacity. I just think he's probably on the bench because of Harvey Barnes' form. I think if you play a player on merit, then Harvey Barnes has certainly merited his starting spot for Monday. And the game's ahead if he keeps performing well, and Harvey Barnes stays in the team, doesn't he?
Yeah, great assist on Wednesday night.
Yeah, it was.
Eddie Howe literally said that as well.
Did he? Did you mention
he gave credit to Harvey Barnes for his assist for Sandro Tonali, which, I mean...
Beautifully weighted pass.
I think maybe if he doesn't weight that pass the way he does, Sandro Tonali doesn't shank it in.
It's true. You take nothing away. I thought it was a sensational assist.
Yes.
Like Jacob Murphy's for Alexander Isak at Wembley.
I think you have to give credit to Harvey Barnes, because his time at Newcastle has probably been sort of summed up by moments, great goals, and you go back a year to the West Ham game, he scored 2 goals, but I think since he's come back into the team in Anthony Gordon's absence, he's almost been like quietly effective. It's been more nuanced. We've seen a Harvey Barnes which looks like the type of player Eddie Howe wants and needs to have a consistent run in the team and not just be an impact sub. I think he's been quietly effective. He's done his job. He's got up and down, and it linked up very well with Tino Livramento as well, which we touched on Wednesday night. So I think I would expect Harvey Barnes to stay in the side, particularly given Anthony Gordon's situation. Alexander Isak, on the subject of injuries, groin issue, he said Eddie Howe sort of contradicted himself, didn't he, with Alexander Isak? Because he said it wasn't he said it was a fresh issue, he felt just in the warm-up, but then he said Alexander Isak has struggled with his groin and it just reared its head ahead of the Brentford game. So it is he has history of groin issues,
I think,
and that's all it was. It just reared its head in the warm-up, but he felt he could get through the game. Only lasted just over an hour though, so he'll be assessed. Again, how do you address that situation, particularly if Anthony Gordon is not 100%? And then there's also Kieran Trippier, Joelinton as well, but they sounded less serious. Eddie Howe said no major issues from Wednesday night, just a few knocks and niggles. So
yeah, we've been here before with the Isak sort of, is he going to play, is he not? I think it was the Brighton game last time when he missed the Liverpool game, he ended up starting, so that could be the case. But of course, when you speak to Eddie Howe in these situations, you've got to take his words as literal.
You can't.
But based on what he said, and that's what we're conveying here, there is a doubt over whether Alexander Isak will be available on Monday, as is the case with Anthony Gordon. Kieran Trippier as well probably falls in that bracket because didn't really offer an update on him. Joelinton was the one where, when I asked him about Joelinton, he pretty much said that he would play on through the injury.
Yeah.
He said that in midweek as well. You could see visibly on Wednesday that Joelinton's carrying an injury, but he quite clearly wants to battle on, heavily strapped knee. So I think he's probably the only one you can say that is definitely going to be involved, whereas the other three, because we're speaking 4 days before the game.
Yeah. So you can't say anyone's going to be definitely involved, because anyone could pick up an injury the next few days. Joelinton's an interesting one. Like, I hope that knee holds up, because you don't want him to play through it and then all of a sudden he's out for the rest of the season, because we saw that. You go back to the Sunderland game, we were talking about this the other night, the Sunderland game in the FA Cup where Joelinton picked up a bad knock, decided to play on, then was out for pretty much the rest of the season. So let's avoid those mistakes again, because Joelinton's such an important player to Newcastle, as is Alexander Isak, Anthony Gordon and Kieran Trippier as well.
I suppose on paper, if you want to pick games for your top goal scorer on this, it's probably a trip to second bottom of the Premier League, who can't score goals and can't stop conceding goals. But of course, ideally you would want Alexander Isak available. But if there is a game, maybe you should have enough within your squad to get a result. Callum Wilson's there, Will Osula's there. Yeah.
There's a lot of clamour for Will Osula to get starts in the Premier League. So hypothetically, hopefully not, but hypothetically, if Alexander Isak, Anthony Gordon are not available or not going to start, how do you address that front three? Yeah,
I think that Callum Wilson starts for me, and then you just keep the wide areas the same, don't you? I sort of get the want to see Will Osula, because Will Osula probably has more days left at Newcastle than Callum Wilson does, so I can see why you'd want to.
It's long-term thinking, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, but I think it's pretty much clear from Eddie Howe's thinking that Callum Wilson is the second choice striker, and I think it would be. I don't think Eddie Howe would pick Will Osula ahead of Callum Wilson, whereas Callum Wilson's fit. I think he's made that abundantly clear, these substitutions. So yeah, Callum Wilson comes in, and I think, look, we always talk about Callum Wilson being an excellent goal scorer, and I still think he is, but I do have some concern around Callum Wilson, because I don't think he's quite looked the same since returning.
Missed a lot of football.
Missed a lot of football. He's coming off the bench. He isn't quite holding up the ball as well as he should be. He hasn't really came close to scoring. Okay, he had that effort in midweek that deflected wide in stoppage time, so he doesn't quite look the same player, I don't think. But I just think through seniority and trust with Eddie Howe, it's Callum Wilson that comes in.
Absolutely. We've seen flashes from Will Osula, and he's
we love him. We absolutely love him. We love his attributes. He's an
exciting player, so I can see why people want to see more of him, because he is he's like a maverick as well. He's unpredictable, but he's big, he's fast, he's powerful. So, and we saw against Bromley, he can finish as well. Although we saw against Birmingham that maybe this, but he had a great game against Birmingham, playing on the right side. So, yeah, just in front of goal was a little bit. It was interesting. So, yeah, I think Will Osula is one of them. I think he'll get eased into the side over there. He may well go out on loan next season. You just don't know. We'll see more of him in pre-season, though, you'd imagine. So, yeah, Callum Wilson, a player loved by Eddie Howe. Question marks over his future. Question marks over Sean Longstaff's future, Eddie Howe literally said as well, in terms of where things go beyond the summer. And that sort of goes into my question a little bit, where I was speaking about Newcastle guaranteed European football. And if you go back last year, Eddie Howe said, look, if we get Conference League football, Matt Ritchie and Paul Dummett might get new contracts. So Newcastle guaranteed at least Conference League football. Will we see the Callum Wilsons, Jamal Lascelles, maybe the goalkeepers as well, the players out of contract in the summer, get rewarded new contracts? And he didn't really answer it, did he not?
It's a good point, though, because I think looking at the UEFA squad rules, I think Newcastle are short in terms of English
There are, but there were last time, and they've since lost Elliot Anderson. So yeah, absolutely, there will be. Sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, they will not be able to name a full 25-man squad for whatever UEFA competition they're in next season.
So, and I mean, it's a point where they actually could just hand out new deals, albeit quite expensive new deals, to get in a couple of extra players in the UEFA squad.
I'd be surprised if any new contract offered to Callum Wilson is on the same terms he is on right now.
No.
I'd say for him to stay at the club, it would have to be you stay, you have a bit part role, and your salary is reduced because you are 33 years old now and haven't really played much football.
Yeah.
That's no disrespect to Callum Wilson.
No.
He's been paid an enormous sum of money the past few years and has largely repaid it for half of that, I'd say.
Yeah.
But since then, he has to understand his role in the squad if he does indeed agree to sign a new deal and does indeed get offered a new deal. Because then I followed that up. Eddie Howe said, well, will we see any more contract announcements before the end of the season? And Eddie Howe was very open with Fabian Schär's contract the other day, which is he's since signed.
He went back for more.
Yeah, so I was wondering, another bite.
Yeah.
And Eddie Howe just said, we'll wait and see. And yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows, yes.
Yeah.
That's what he said. And I struggled to get my question out. If you watch the press conference footage back, I was on the verge of a cough from the moment I asked that first question. And you can hear my voice just absolutely going. I got through it.
You did, you held it together really well.
Some sort of discomfort, and then I ended up coughing while Eddie Howe was replying. So very rude of me. But yeah. So contract situation, that's sort of where it stands. Fabian Schär, new deal. We touched on it on our previous press conference video. No brainer really. And Eddie Howe,
100%.
strong tribute to Fabian Schär.
Yeah, he'd waxed lyricals about Fabian Schär, called him a unique player, which to be fair he is. In terms of defender, I think you've even said he'd probably be in your top.
Oh, he's in my all-time Newcastle 11. As someone I've seen in the flesh, obviously didn't see the great entertainers era team or anything like that. But yeah, in terms of a defender, what he's offered, the moments he's offered, and just his overall swagger.
I wonder if there's a centre back that is score as many iconic goals for his football club than him. Because you think about it, like PSG's the obvious one, but Rake has he scored. Nottingham Forest. I'm trying to rattle off my brain. Burnley. There's been quite a few ways.
Cardiff.
Yeah.
Solo goal.
Yeah.
You don't get many centre backs doing that.
You really don't. But he's been a really good defender at the same time as well. Like for £3 million, I mean, you've said it plenty of times. It's one of the bargains of the century. It's probably one of the biggest bargains in Newcastle United's Premier League history. And I think him signing a new deal now, be his 8th year at the club. For that amount of money, when you talk about the world of PSR and stuff, and players sign long-term contracts, you can spread out the transfer fee. Fabian Schär has literally cost Newcastle United nothing. Yes, basically nothing.
And has repaid the club in abundance with so many great moments. Wait for the lawnmower to go past.
The likelihood is he's probably not. If things go how Newcastle want to go in the transfer market, he probably won't be the starter next year, because I think it's clear. I said in midweek as well, I think it's clear they want a centre back, because the Chase Marquis last summer didn't get him. I don't know if that's loud enough.
It is quite loud.
But he's moving away again. But yeah, the Chase Marquis last summer didn't get him, so for me that suggests that they're probably going to go for a centre half again. It's the right hand side that they're probably going to look at. So, but look, take nothing away from Fabian Schär. Even if he isn't starting next year, he's a fantastic squad player to have. So,
especially if you're in Europe as well.
So I don't think anyone will have any complaints over giving Fabian Schär a new contract.
No, Eddie Howe was keen to address. I know there's been question marks, and Liam certainly, and we have sort of questioned Fabian Schär's form, as will have Newcastle's overall form in the Premier League this season. So there has been question marks over that, but Eddie Howe was keen to stress that he's been such a key player. Even this season, Fabian Schär, he obviously contributed well in the Carabao Cup as well. But yeah, on that note, just while the lawnmower's in the background, we'll have an ad break and we'll see you in a couple of minutes. Comply IT Limited. Worrying about disposing of your old IT equipment? Don't be. Comply IT handle everything. Secure collection, detailed tracking, and certified data destruction. That's Comply IT Limited. We've also got Mitigate. Mitigate enhances workplace mental health, helping businesses stay compliant, reduce absences, and unlock higher productivity, creating healthier, happier teams. And of course, our OG sponsors, Four Rivers Financial Planning. Four Rivers Financial Planning offer holistic financial advice for all stages of life, ensuring your plan remains robust and adaptable in the ever-changing world we live in. So yeah, those were our 3 sponsors. Please check their links out in the description. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell for all your Geordie Journos content. So yeah, picking up where we left off, sort of, with Eddie Howe's press conference, looking ahead to the summer. Eddie Howe dropped some almost refreshing transfer hints when addressing things in the press conference.
Yeah, my ears pricked up when he was asked about the summer transfer window, and he sort of alluded to the fact that I knew at the start of the last summer that they weren't going to spend money, whereas this time, and he said in his press conference, he hopes it'll be totally different.
He expects it to be totally different as well with the PSR situation, so yeah, really good.
So yeah, they're in a good PSR position and totally different in terms of hopefully being able to spend money, which I think that's the first time he's really alluded to that, because we sat after the transfer window closed and we asked about selling Almiron and Kelly and what that would do, and he didn't really give much away, where it was he wouldn't commit to saying we've got money to spend, and he hasn't done that totally, but I think he's hinted at the fact that there's an internal feeling that they can't really go and strengthen this summer, which for the first time in a very, very long time.
Yeah, I'm not a PSR expert, but you just look at the numbers, you get a £70 million debt written off based on the 3-year period, and then a £11 million debt, which is, don't want to say his name, but Mike Ashley level of debt. It's significantly reduced, so that comes back into play. And you look back to Newcastle's first transfer window, summer transfer window under PIF, bought Alexander Isak, Sven Botman, Nick Pope, spent big, and I don't want to get people too excited and say that sort of money will be spent again, because Newcastle don't want to end up in this situation they found themselves in last summer. But after 3-4 quiet transfer windows, I think we're going to have a bit of noise in the summer by the sounds of it. And Eddie Howe was hinting as such as well.
It's 2 or 3 signings, I hope, because
just a first team sign. Make the squad, make the starting lineup better. But also, I think, going back to my question as well, with guaranteed European football, the squad needs to improve. Otherwise, we'll go back to what Newcastle were last season, where they just miss out on Europe, and they might be a little bit competitive in the odd game in the Champions League or Conference League or whatever. Particularly if you're in the Conference League, where you'd be expecting to get to the very latter stages of that competition, so your European football throughout the season. Balancing the squad and all those games is going to be difficult if Newcastle don't improve in the summer.
Yeah, it's about the squad as well, strengthening sort of that, and then for Champions League football as well, financially to boost your budget, which is what it does. I think
significant.
So we've done a video in midweek based off Champions League, but in terms of speaking of a summer transfer window, to have Champions League football would be game changers, as Eddie Howe described it. So yeah, I'd like to see when Eddie Howe said that, I feel encouraged that there's finally he's finally admitted that there's going to be some movement.
Yeah, because Darren
Neal's
hinted at it when we spoke to him last month. Said the PSR situation's a lot healthier, but Eddie Howe coming out and saying it is refreshing. And yeah, where do you address? What are your top priorities in the summer? You touched on the centre-back, right-sided centre-back, but further up the pitch or even behind, there's other areas to address as well. Yeah,
goalkeeper and right forward for me would be the 2. Goalkeeper wise, I think Nick Pope's starting to come into his own a little bit again. I know he gave away a penalty in midweek, but I do think we've started to see, not a 10th fate, but I do think we've seen signs of sort of him improving again, because it feels like a long time ago now we were debating whether he should be starting Nick Pope or Martin Dubravka. I think Nick Pope has probably taken back the jersey, number 1 jersey.
The decision's been vindicated with the Carabao Cup final win, and that big save. It's fair enough. Hold my hands up. I was a big Martin Dubravka advocate.
I think we all were.
Yep, and he may well have come in and done a very good job in the final himself, but Eddie Howe's trusted his number 1, Nick Pope, and he'll stick by that for the rest of the season, I'd imagine.
But I know goalkeepers are different, but you look at the goalkeeping department, Martin Dubravka's 36, Nick Pope 32, 30, going on 33, obviously. So I still think, I know the goalkeeping situation is different because as a goalkeeper you play on for a lot longer than you're an outfield player, but I just think it's quite an aging department if you see, and I do think when you look at it, I mean the player that Newcastle have been strongly linked with, James Trafford, you look at sort of his profile, playing a lot of games at championship level, is involved in the England setup, is still only 22, so that for me is like identifying a goalkeeper where you would have him for, he'd be a number one goalkeeper for about 10 years.
Yeah.
And I do wonder if the summer transfer window is the time to do that, because the goalkeeping situation's been a strange one. I think it's been kicked down the road, like the can's been kicked down the road quite often, where it was like, it felt like they were going to address it last summer, and of course the PSR situation, they end up bringing in Vakadimos, and then the end of that. But the interest in Trafford remains, but they don't act. I do wonder 12 months on if we'll go back in for him, and be the man, whether he comes straight in to be number one, or again as a sort of a backup to Nick Pope where you learn off him. But I think if you're signing James Trafford, and I think James Trafford coming here, I think he wants to be the number one from the off, and I'd be surprised if he wasn't.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because there's still question marks over James Trafford at Premier League level.
Yeah, there is.
He's been incredible at Championship level. The amount of clean sheets he's had, breaking records, barely conceding a goal for Burnley. Saved 2 penalties against Sunderland, which is.
It was funny the reaction, the shift from well, I don't want to sign James Trafford. I'm speaking as a Newcastle fan here. I don't want to sign James Trafford. Actually, saved 2 penalties against Sunderland. Get him in.
He celebrated in front of the Sunderland fans as well.
He did. I love that. The Newcastle fans love that.
Quite cheeky, but yeah, I still think question marks over him at Premier League level, where he actually dropped out of the Burnley side last season due to his form. So, yeah, but Newcastle definitely like James Trafford. They scouted him this season. They agreed personal terms with him verbally last summer. So you imagine that's almost like a shoe-in signing if Burnley indeed agree for a transfer. And James Trafford's come out and said, I'll be playing Premier League football next season regardless of.
I've seen those quotes. I wasn't quite sure if he was, because I didn't see the actual, he said it, but I do wonder if he was sort of talking, I believe I'll be in the Premier League with Burnley. I mean, he didn't say that.
No,
I do wonder if the question was sort of like angled that way.
Yeah, he's just very confident of playing Premier League football. But yeah, you can take it. Is it at Burnley? Is it elsewhere? But yeah, that's a big one. Goalkeeper, I think right forward has to be addressed. As good as Jacob Murphy's been statistically, it's just the one area of the squad since the takeover that basically hasn't been touched and actually has got weaker because they've sold Miguel Almiron.
Yeah. I mean, the half signed a right forward, and it was Jan Kuba Minter, but of course never seen the light of day on Tyneside. And then Jacob Murphy again. I thought it would be Jacob Murphy that left his football club before Miguel Almiron, but lo and behold, Miguel Almiron leaves, and Jacob Murphy is touch wood, stayed fit and performed very, very well. Actually, I think anyone would be lying and said he hadn't exceeded expectations.
Oh no, absolutely. I think even you go back to the Carabao Cup final and also Wednesday night, where maybe between either box he probably hasn't had the greatest of games, yet has contributed 2 assists for Alexander Isak. It's just that sort of telepathic relationship, and if he's facilitating goals for Alexander Isak, then he can stay in the team for me.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Jacob Murphy was really, really poor the other night, but then he gets an assist, and you can't really argue. If he's getting an assist, you can't argue with it. Yeah. If he's like poor in the main, but then pops up with an assist,
fair play.
Do your worst, son. Do your worst.
Exactly. So, yeah, but I do. Having said that, I do think that's an area Newcastle needs to strengthen, just because it has not been touched. Even if Jacob Murphy can stay in the side, you need someone. He can't be a guaranteed starter week in, week out, which he is at the moment. He knows, even if he does have a stinker and doesn't get an assist or whatever, doesn't get a goal, he probably stays in that side, because unless you want to play Anthony Gordon or Harvey Barnes out of position, exactly. So he's a guaranteed starter at the moment. So he needs competition, direct, natural right-wing competition, and yeah, I think that's, for me, that would be the priority.
It's the excitement factor, isn't it? I think as football fans, what excites you, it's attacking players, it's seeing players score goals, and to be able to go and sign an exciting right forward for it will be a sizable fee. I just think it gets the excitement going, because that's what Newcastle has lacked. Yeah, just that edge of the seat stuff, because they haven't had the capacity to strengthen the transfer window. So yeah, for me as a football fan, I want to see attacking players join. I also want to see goalkeepers join as well.
Backhand Salia, he'll be the
Yeah.
answer to all our
Yeah.
problems. But yeah, on that note, shall we wrap up there?
Yep.
So yeah, hope you've enjoyed this video. We'll be back on Monday at the King Power Stadium reflecting on what is hopefully another Newcastle Premier League win in their battle for Champions League qualification. So yeah, if you like what we do, please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. If you have any questions you want to ask, just drop them below. Any comments about what me and Jordan have had to say, you know where to find us. And we'll see you at Leicester on Monday night. Thanks for watching.